It says we're going.
Cool.
It says, okay, all right.
YouTube.
Oh, look at that. It's right there on the
yes.
YouTubes.
The YouTubes. Hey, there it is. Wait, nope, there.
Woo.
That's not what it is.
We've got a hello in chat.
There's a chat.
I was going to say, now the only question is, will anyone show up?
I found it. Oh, I forgot I'm a moderator.
Okay,
That's
I'm
nice.
going to bump a bunch of stuff around. Hello.
How's it going,
Hello. Real Zealand hours.
Shout out. How's the audio?
Oh, we've already got
We're
a
all
Crivens
talking
in
at our
chat.
appropriate volumes, I'm sure.
Yep.
I'm speaking.
Let us know if we sound beautiful.
Hey.
And if we don't say anything.
Don't say anything.
Yeah.
To themselves.
Only constructive criticism that makes us feel good.
No potatoes. We're not cross extremes here.
No,
Hey, I didn't even say anything this time.
no.
I know.
This is why I didn't want to set a precedent. Well, welcome to the first Q&A of Open and Shut, our second campaign. Woo! Excitement. We are indeed very excited to flex our beautiful voices and answer you guys' questions about the campaign, about what's going on. We've got some in the emails, so we're going to start there, but do feel free to drop questions in chat, and we will try and get to as many as we can. Please stop dropping potatoes.
You know what? Let's lean into it. Keep dropping potatoes.
No. If you're gonna put anything in the chat, put rats in the chat.
Question.
Yes, no.
Put
rats in the
Chat,
rats.
Rats.
Rat chat. I'm for
so
that.
it's not like a moral objection to spamming chat. It's simply the choice of emoji that aroused your ire.
I just don't
get
like
it.
that
We are
it's
different,
crossing over.
and you will
It
treat us as
implies that
such.
every time Red, you and I are going to be on a stream together, I'm going to have to deal with the potatoes in chat. I would much rather it be a creature of my own making, and in this case, that's the rats. But we are going to answer some questions. We're going to start
spamming in chat.
We're going to start with one from the email. This one comes from Sylph. Me and my fellow number crunchers would love to know which backgrounds does each character have?
Ooh.
What background is your character?
Let me just check my character sheet.
I know, right?
I know Ingrid's is, I'm pretty sure, entertainer.
I feel like background is one of those things that like you select during character creation and then never comes up again, you know?
For the most
It's a
part,
really
yeah.
level 1, level 2 kind of thing. There's a couple of them that pull more weight than others, especially since they started giving feats linked to backgrounds. But yeah, Red, you're not wrong. It's kind of like the starting equipment where it's like at level 1, sometimes you're like, wow, a bear trap, that'll be useful.
Yeah.
And at level 7, you're like, a bear trap? I can make things explode with my brain.
Yeah. Bear trap is broke.
I got,
Entangle is woke.
Evrard has the criminal background, and the criminal does get some really good stuff in terms of like items. And then technically the criminal contact is a part of the background, but Austin's already incorporated that across everybody, so which has been really cool and really
Oh,
fun.
you're right. I should have given you a bonus for that. That's on me. I did not really consider that you were supposed to have one as your backstory. I should have given you a bonus on top, but
Yeah.
so it goes.
Bileyg has the soldier background with the military rank feature. Would be tremendously useful if we dealt with anybody who was in anything resembling the military order I was in. But
We're in the
being
wrong
a
city for that.
yeah, being a City of Swords paladin doesn't get me shit in Sigil. It gets me
I feel
fleeced
like,
at every
though-
market.
That's true. I feel like that maybe it was a more recent thing, but you being from where you're from was like kind of important. It carries weight with certain characters, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that it's definitely most appropriate, but it's in the city of Sigil, it's more of a detriment than a benefit most of the time. It's like, hello, I am the most lawful good you could possibly find, and I make a living following the rules and enforcing them on other people. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Just writes narc on my name badge, slaps it on there.
And Oobtaglor is also an entertainer.
Yes. Entertainer, meaning that we could theoretically be receiving free lodging or food at a modest or comfortable standard. And if we perform, and also we're something of local figures, which I think has been true in both of our cases to just kind of different variants. Well, we've got other questions. For the players from chat, Metalbug470, will you try to get a weird little dude this campaign as well? Obviously, I have already accomplished this, so the rest of the cast, you guys going to get weird little dudes?
Oobtaglor already has a weird little dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
He's too big to be a weird little dude, the house.
He's small for a house. He's not. All the other houses are bigger than him, right? So.
Aw,
Yeah.
true. He's just a little guy.
Yeah.
Bileyg has the sword.
We can't. It's kind of hard to do a weird little dude session with this array of dudes.
Yeah, my sword is sentient, but it's not animate, so like,
Yeah.
it would just be lying on a shelf being slightly judgmental.
Yeah, that's more or less. I mean, you got to keep in mind it's sentient, but it's all pretty low rarity, so it's doing too much.
It's just a little guy.
Just gives out vibes,
What about Evrard?
Evrard is a little guy. I think he's fine. Fine being
Awesome.
himself.
Well, this question is more for Austin, also from Sylph in our email. As an aspiring DM, how does balancing low-level encounters this campaign differ from high-level ones last campaign?
I'm terrified of killing them all. That's true.
Really? Could have fooled me.
Well, I feel like it's not until these last couple episodes we've recorded that I feel like I've really gotten a hold on how to challenge you guys most effectively. What I've found is that because especially at low levels, the action economy is so important, outnumbering your players is a really surefire way to challenge them, but it can also be very dangerous. And so in the other campaign, I didn't mind giving them like really powerful magic items because I knew they already had powerful stuff. I didn't mind throwing lots of enemies because I kind of assumed that they could take care of lots of enemies. They would find a way, like that their toolbox was big enough that they would come up with something to solve a problem even if I couldn't come up with that thing was. Here, their toolbox is much smaller, and especially at 4th level, which is where they're still at, and not having that extra attack at 5th level, it can be really swingy. One bad dice roll means that you can spend a whole turn doing nothing. And so it's been really tough for me to challenge them without like super stacking the odds against them and keep the encounters different. Because what I keep finding is I'm like, okay, well, there's 4 of them. So I'm like, so 2 to 3 is usually good. But I'm like, okay, so then I have 1 main bad guy and then like 2 lieutenants. That's kind of tricky. So I've tried some other things, and you'll see coming up in upcoming episodes, there might be more characters who are, more combatants that are like squishier. Or conversely, there might be a single combatant that has a lot more to do using that the villain action mechanic. Thank you, MCDM. I think actually, I don't know if this is a thing that they've coined, if it's in their upcoming game or not, but they're calling it Orc, which is opener. Oh, what is it? Opener something. Opener, closer, reversal. And those are like every round. If you have 1 bad guy, they should have a villain action that is an opener, and then the second round there should be a reversal, and then there should be a closer. Usually opener is something that sets the theme of the encounter. This is where you would have your like fear effects. Reversal is where you change the situation of the battle, so moving characters around is really good reversal. And then closer is the big thing, because they're probably going to die. You want them to be remembered on a cool note, so probably a lot of damage to someone or damage to everyone. So I've been trying to incorporate those with like a single bad guy to try and keep the combats dynamic, because again, their toolbox is much smaller. It's not as dynamic naturally. I kind of have to inject some of that.
That's fascinating.
That's really
kinda
cool.
Like the storytelling based systems that are built to make narratives rather than just be dice rolling simulators.
Obviously, those two things, creating storytelling narratives and creating just like combat mechanics, can be at odds, but they can also occasionally help each other, because combats get more dynamic when you include that almost narrative arc in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take another question here from the chat. This one comes from Banana Milk. I miss you. How did you guys choose your characters' names? And kind of an extension on this one for you, Red, from Pavs. What is Bileyg's sword's name?
Oh,
So how did you choose your PC's name and then Bileyg's sword's name? If we could get those both.
one half of one of those questions is just for me. Should we do everyone else first?
Oh, I thought we were going to start with you.
Okay. Well, I guess nobody's Googled Bileyg yet. It's one of Odin's names. It means one-eyed. It's an extremely niche in-joke with myself, because Peter Falk, who plays Columbo, has a glass eye, and it's hard to notice, but sometimes you'll notice if you're watching the show, and so there's like these fans are like, oh my gosh, Columbo secretly being Odin would be really funny. I don't know. I thought it was funny, and I thought it was a solid D&D sounding-ish name, and I'm shocked that nobody Googled it first.
That is good.
Yeah. And his sword's name is Sword, which is another Columbo joke. Columbo has a dog, and the dog's name is Dog.
Yes.
He never names it anything else. So there it is, behind the curtain. It's all Columbo.
Now, if I remember, that wasn't your original character name pitch, right? You had a different character name that you pitched, I think, originally. Wasn't it? It was like Kulam. Am I right about that? Or was that...
I don't think so, but I did. I think it's like giving him a first name was a concession. I think that might have been what we're remembering.
I swear there was a thing where it was like Columbo, but it was just two of the letters were switched.
No, I wasn't gonna do that. I wanted to give him his own identity.
I do remember having to have the conversation of, we do need to make this name at least a little different from just kind of being
That's what I was like. You and me both. You were like, for production reasons, and I was like, for story integrity reasons, we cannot just have this guy literally be named Columbo.
I think he's got his own personality and arc going. I think he's fine.
Yeah.
now
also,
that we're playing.
Somebody in chat was like, oh, his wife is pissed as Sophia. I did ask Austin if that would be allowed. The answer was no.
He did ask her.
My very first question was, hey, can I be married to a god? And Austin was like, no. And I was like, you're not even going to hear me out? And he was like, no.
I think we did come to a good compromise, though.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I think it's very solid.
Yeah. For
names.
Ingrid, for Ingrid Starling, the first name is just Ingrid Bergman's first name, because a classic Noir heroine, and I thought that Starling sounded appropriately dramatic, kind of like a stage name, and does sort of play into like being a bird in the back half of it a little bit. It just felt very old. It felt very classic film starlet and appropriately dramatic and sharp to be a femme fatale's name. So it's a little bit of an homage to a great of the screen, and a little bit just that it sounded like a sharp bird, and I thought that would work well.
Oobtaglor, the name itself, just came, I think, from our like fantasy name generator or something like that, and I just like the name enough to make it. But Oobtaglor is a direct reference to Oobtaglor's father, Oobtaglor the dancer, who was a previous character in
the one shot we played.
In a one shot that we ran. And well, originally I was gonna have Oobtaglor's name be Oobtaglor, son of Oobtaglor, which I think is a little bit funnier. But after I made the choice to make them gender fluid, it changed to Oobtaglor. Burr being like an Icelandic suffix for a gender neutral person, similar to like Odin's son or Odin's daughter or something like that. Yeah.
Cool.
And Wally.
So I actually, in terms of his name, Evrard Vespien, that's kind of I just put generic French words there. But I mostly leaned on his criminal name, which is Lapin, which is supposed to be a something close to Arsène Lupin, which is the gentleman
Yeah.
of. And the writer for that is Maurice Leblanc. So the White Rabbit. So Leblanc, Lapin. So it's sort of a weird mismatch of all of that. So
that rules.
But yeah.
Very fun.
That's great.
We're gonna take one from the email next. This one is about our favorite Oobsy baby. Hello, I'm having so much fun with this new campaign. My question is, how on earth does Oobtaglor's biology work? More specifically, are they like a single-celled organism or something? Just a membrane filled with, I don't know, guts? How does their body have any structural integrity? How does their nervous system work? These are the questions that keep me up at night. Thank you. So, I don't know, Noir and Austin, if you guys want to explain.
World build down to the cellular level
build.
now.
Yeah, plasmoids, I think, famously don't have a lot of world building around them. And so here I am, frantically Googling, how do slimes work?
It's always funny whenever Austin has to like come up with a description for like, oh no, Oobtaglor's been severely hit in combat. Some more of them leaks out than usual.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit. I think they're basically the fantasy equivalent of single cell organisms.
Sure.
It's if you read about them in the 5e Spelljammer, it does say they eat. They're kind of like big amoebas. They absorb oxygen through their membrane. They like osmose to eat stuff. They don't really have like organs. It's more just like
organelles
all loose in there. Yeah,
there's mitochondria.
Even
in there.
organelles are bound with a membrane, and I don't think that that's the case. They're biologically hard to pin down because they are, biologically the product of pure chaos. They're from limbo, so it's hard to diegetically. They don't really have a good explanation for what they are because pure chaos birthed them.
This is a real quick tangent. The funny,
that's what it says on my birth certificate, by the way.
Birth from pure chaos, yeah. For a while, I thought it was like needlessly nitpicky. Whenever people were like, "How does centaur anatomy work? Like they've got 2 spines. Like where did the stomachs go?" I was like, "Yeah, whatever." But then it occurred to me, like, hey, in a game like D&D, where getting injured is like a standard thing that happens, it's kind of important to know where everybody's organs are actually, like, so you can signify, oh no, this is bad.
And preferably you'd like them inside of you. So
yeah, probably,
yes.
statistically speaking.
Ideally.
Yeah, I've been playing Oobtaglor's injuries as like basically how well can Oobtaglor literally keep themselves together. And so I think like below whenever Austin gets me below half, I like indicate that by Oobtaglor kind of spilling out more than usual, I think, as you said, Austin. So but yeah, it's vague, and that's how I like it.
Keep it vague and evocative, man.
Yeah.
Oobtaglor's next little guy is just going to be a mitochondria, so they can they can power up more.
We got a question in chat. Cereal and Water wants to know, does Wally speak French?
Cereal and water? Come on, dude.
I speak. My French is not that great. I can read it fairly well. I think me and Austin took French for 10 years.
Something like that.
I took I took it for at least 10 years because I took classes in college as well.
Yeah, I took a year of French in college as well after high school.
So je parle un peu de français et de temps en temps si je dois parler français, je sais. I think I try. Yeah. So it's small things like that.
That really is the universal experience.
I need more practice. It'd be nice to just go to a French-speaking country and live there for a couple months. I feel like that'll lock it in. I'm forced to speak it. So, yeah.
I feel like that really is the universal experience, right? Of I can not really speak it much. I can read it a little bit. I studied it for 10 years.
Yeah.
In Spanish.
Yeah. Well, we got another question in chat here. Delta V Heavy, are we ever going to follow up on the case of the missing original owner of the detective office? Will Ingrid ever get her pearls back? I don't know. I once again gave Austin a blank slate of a character.
What are you talking about? There is a specific moment in an upcoming episode in which Austin dangles that hook in front of Ingrid, and Ingrid Sophia does not take it.
I don't know the answer. I don't know. I'm trying to hold on to my real estate. It's an expensive city to live in.
All of your characters are.
You don't know the answer, and you don't want to know the answer.
I feel like it's going to be a big karma coming to bite me on the ass moment, and I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm scared.
Oh, DM, it's simply awful. What happened to my old claw hooks?
Yeah, no, I once again gave Austin very little in terms of like, I'm like, here's a complete character. There's no backstory, and I have not created like a desire. So I'm hoping that this will turn out as well as it did with Danny. But yeah, this is my bad, Austin.
Dangerous game.
Another question in chat. Ann Keener, why did everyone else other than Ingrid become detectives?
Should we just go down the line?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, starting with me. Oobtaglor just likes a puzzle. And that's because I like puzzles. The top hat that Oobtaglor got in episode 4 is a direct Professor Layton reference. And but yeah, like Oobtaglor is not really concerned with like doing good necessarily or righting wrongs. If there's just a good juicy mystery in front of them, they're gonna want to solve it.
You mean the person who decided it was okay to keep feeding the monster house miscellaneous pigs and or people isn't concerned with doing good, quote unquote?
Hey, that was a mystery and Oobtaglor got it solved. How it got resolved is a different matter entirely.
Yeah. Take it up with the monster house if you care so much.
Yeah.
Bileyg cares very much about doing good things, and this is a city that has practically no legal system. So, independently solving crimes feels like the next best thing. It's a very easy decision to make once he got here.
And for Evrard, he grew up a petty thief. That's how he survived. You know, him, large family, as most Harengon have. So he grew up a petty thief, and he stuck with it. That's all he knows. And something happened on a job, and he's trying to turn his life around, but so he'll help out on a case every once in a while. He'll use his expertise as being on the other side of those kinds of things to help and do good. And so for the most part, I think he's done all right. But every once in a while, he slips up and he can't help himself.
Well, this question comes from the email, and I think we've touched on this in an episode that came out recently or is about to come out. But for the Q&A, where in the timeline does Open and Shut take place related to the crew of the Paraspora? So our two campaigns, same world, different time. What's that timeline look like?
Yeah, so I believe, it might be in an upcoming episode that we've recorded but not released. But it's 2 years. It's 1496 DR. I use the Forgotten Realms calendar because that's the prime material plane that this Planescape is connected to, and it's the one that I know. I think there is a calendar for the Planescape, and I didn't use it when I started, and so I don't want to translate it over now. But it's 1496, which I think puts it somewhere between 18 months and 24 months after the last episode of the first campaign.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there's been a little time, and presumably the crew's been up to some other stuff, but we're not too far in the future.
All right. Well, this question comes from the chat Space Panini. It's obligatory. I ask this, but what are your characters wearing in the modern day? Like a walk in the city or in the beach? No cheating with a bucket for Oobtaglor. So we're dressing our characters for modern day. What are they wearing?
Oh, if you think Oobtaglor is not going to be straight styling on
all my
of
clothes
us.
have been like stolen, and so now I'm wearing a bucket or a barrel, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
I think Ingrid would dress like Norma Desmond in the movie Sunset Boulevard, regardless of what era it was. It's like big, hair wrapped up, like huge. No, officer, I could not have murdered my husband. Kind of cloaks and robes and things. Pearls, big old Hollywood silhouettes. Just a lot of exactly what she's wearing now, but with slightly less fantasy influence.
I imagine that. First of all, like a human Oobtaglor I would imagine looking as like I was gonna say ambidextrous. That's entirely incorrect. As like androgynous as possible.
Maybe also ambidextrous.
Yeah, it could be. But I think they're in pretty standard beachwear, like shorts, like a dress shirt that's tucked in, like waist high shorts, a dress shirt that's tucked in, that's only buttoned halfway down or something like that.
Oh.
And sunglasses of some kind. Yeah.
Bileyg is in the most dadly outfit that you can conceive of: the cargo shorts, the sandals
shirt.
with socks.
Big trench coat over all of it.
Maybe the trench coat optional in the summer. Under it, Hawaiian shirt.
Hell yeah.
Excellent.
And Evrard suits are forever, so this man is suited up whenever he can. Suspenders, cufflinks, as fancy as humanly possible. So yeah.
Nice. Well, from chat, Povs, will we see returning contacts like the Grigsit, Skev, and Veze? It's certainly possible. I think that's something that we've been really trying to do with this campaign is we all have little lists of like contacts and just characters that we know or have relationships with in the world already that we could like go to in a case if it came up. I've got that bugbear that I'm hoping we'll run into someday. You know, there's a lot of people like that, and a couple times we've had an opportunity for a player to add a character we interacted with or like was a client to that contact list. So I suspect that it's entirely possible, but I don't know. Austin could probably speak more to whether or not that's very likely.
Yeah, it's completely likely. I think Grigsit was Grigsit and Veze were both contacts, so they were Veze was a contact that became a client essentially, which is a thing I've done a couple times. I didn't think that necessarily be the way it worked, but then as I started prepping these episodes and I needed characters, I was like, well, I could do a lot of work trying to come up with someone new, or these great characters that we worked on as, if you don't know, some of our patrons, and I got together a couple times before the campaign and created a bunch of these NPCs, and then the players rolled to see which ones they would already know. But there's a whole list of ones that didn't get rolled, and the ones that did get rolled, I found not only the good contacts, they're also good plot hooks, because they have a built-in reason to come talk to this character. And then when I need someone else to fill in the slot, I have this list of people already. I don't need to go make anyone up. So it's actually been hugely helpful, saving me a tremendous amount of work. And I would say that, yeah, there's never any guarantee, but they are absolutely always reapproachable. Like if the players decide, or if the characters, I suppose, decide they want to go talk to them, they're all here in the cage, man. No one's going anywhere. So they can all come find them. And then they might also reappear for narrative reasons. We'll see.
Yeah, it's something I really like about this campaign, because it's something I always find really difficult in any tabletop game is having any sort of feeling that you are already someone who exists in this world. Like, you're supposed to have this level of familiarity, but often as the player, you're like learning who else lives here and like where they live and how people exist simultaneously. But because we went into this with a couple characters kind of already populating around us, it made it feel immediately like we were much more familiar with the space we were inhabiting. And I think it was a really cool little feature that I'm excited that we got to play with so much in this campaign.
That does explain why so many of the NPCs we help out are ridiculously competent at things.
Yeah, well, to keep in mind, you guys are also low level. In the past, you played big high-level heroes who were sought out because you were really good at doing what no one else could. In this campaign, it's a lot more like you're sought out because you have a very specific expertise. Like, other people are good at lots of different things, but you guys have a very, very specific domain, and they need you for that purpose.
Well, this question from chat is up next from Agata Jakubiak. Are you planning to use the updated rules once the new 2024 books come out? We're probably not going to be changing systems or additions in the middle of this campaign, but we have conversations offline in the real world on Discord about whether or not we're going to potentially change systems or use the updated D&D world. So it's sort of certainly it's possible, but nothing that we could confirm at this point. It's just kind of a thing we keep our eye on.
Yeah.
This one coming from the coming from the email, Scholarly Nanobot, what are Evrard and Bileyg like as roommates? What little things do they do around the apartment? How organized are they? And in what little ways do they get on each other's nerves? You two have kind of established yourselves as the unofficial roommates of the show. So what's it like living with Evrard and Bileyg?
I think...
Yeah.
I think that Bileyg has a system in the sense that like he forms habits very easily, and then just kind of sticks with them because they make things easier. So like a pretty solid wake up time, meal planning, like a little calendar that's got like the meals planned out. But I also think that Bileyg doesn't spend a ton of time in his apartment. It's more interesting to be out and about, taking in the city, doing his job, seeing if anybody needs help, which is often in Sigil.
Yeah, I imagine Evrard also doesn't. It's technically he's a guest, so he does his best to mind that boundary. Because we're kind of like opposite personalities, the times that we do get together would be like, breakfast. We wake up, we eat breakfast together, exchange a couple of polite words, and then we go about our day. And then we come back later in the day. We have lunch again together. That's pretty much the extent of we don't talk about work. We try to leave that in the office, of course. But relatively peaceful.
Yeah, I don't think there's any like scintillating roommate drama. I think it's just two professional grown-ups who are like, yeah, we kind of know what we're doing.
A lot of people in chat would like to know. And this is a question that I would also like to know the answer to, Austin. Why was Meech in the cage? Why did you lock up
why was Meech in the cage? So, you guys have figured it out at this point in the show, but I don't think it's been revealed. I hinted at a little bit. Meech is, Meech is not like a god that's been trapped or something like that. But Meech has an ability. Meech is a pet and an NPC in his own right, but is also a magic item and can do something. And so, Gerda? I'm forgetting the names of my NPCs now. The hag who had him locked up specifically for that reason, so that he would not get away.
And who could forget Dear Rat Boy?
Free him. Dear Rat Boy.
It was Gerda. I'm so smart.
And sort of a related question, do the other rats like working in the cafe, or is Meech's thoughts on the cafe shared by the other rats?
That's a good question. The rats that work
How ethical is the rat cafe?
Oh no!
How up the code is it?
They don't have a union. I'll say that much.
They don't have a union. How ethical is it? The rats
How ethical is the hag's
they're
rat
under
cafe?
like compulsion, right? So they're not like mistreated. They all get, they live in a nice house and they get lots of well cooked food. But they're not just there on their own volition. She's doing a little Pied Pipering to keep them all there. So they would probably go back and join. There's like a mass cranium rat intelligence that exists in Sigil. They would probably go back to that if they were freed. They're like a group of wasps that have been pulled into a different hive. So I don't know how this couldn't happen in Asia, but how sad would a bunch of wasps be if they unknowingly got moved from one hive with their queen to a different hive with a queen that technically wasn't their queen? Like I don't know. They probably want to go back if they had that much thought about it, but that's where they're at. Don't feel too bad for them, but they are being compelled magically just a little bit.
The rats.
I think the rats should unionize.
All the more reason to hate that hag's fucking sweet shop.
No. Oobtaglor is wrong. This is a very fine establishment.
Look, a pastry place in Sigil that uses real butter is already a rarity, okay?
Yeah.
As far as hags go, probably one of the nicer ones out there.
Oobtaglor don't trust.
Well, you didn't have to confront her. You made it away pretty unscathed.
Yep.
So,
and that automatically puts her up in our estimation.
Oobtaglor don't trust like that. No way.
Let's get some rats in the chat. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get some rats in
Eating
the
you
chat.
something?
Rat union.
Don't
Rat
eat,
union.
Don't osmose.
Rats. This question also comes from chat. Elizabeth, when your characters aren't solving crime and doing whatnot, what are they doing in their free time? So what are our hobbies? What are our activities on the downtime?
Oobtaglor's hawking on the street, just busking, basically. Always got to keep their skills up. Yeah.
Bileyg spends a lot of time cooking or preparing to cook. It's a nice rhythmic routine thing to stay focused on when he's not, when you're doing detective work, you have to spend so much time focused on the whole wide world and taking in all the details. So it's nice to be able to narrow focus in on just something methodical and simple.
Evrard's still a petty thief on the side.
Evrard, no!
Oh yeah, occasionally.
Oh, I slip up sometimes.
Yeah. And if he gets caught, he who knows? He hasn't been caught yet. It's not relevant to what's going on. He tries to keep work and the rest of his life separate, but every once in a while they overlap. For the most part, yeah. Oh, actually, outside of that, there is a small garden that he tends to. That's where he gets his flowers. So yeah.
Aww.
I like to think that Ingrid reads a lot and like does puzzles. Like she's a big reader of staying up to date with all the latest of fine stagecraft and plays that's being published in Sigil and beyond, but also a lot of like detective stories and novels. She's a character who very much was reading Agatha Christie and said, "Well, I could do that." So I like to think that she spends a lot of time sipping a very elegant coffee in a cafe and reading a good book.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, this one comes from the email. For Red specifically, it's no secret that you had a bit of a rough time with your rolls for your initial ability scores. You also have described Bileyg as not being innately talented so much as others around him, like his daughter. Was that a comparison to others you had come up with when you initially conceived of the character, or did those details come to you after rolling your ability scores? And to all, have you ever come up with a particularly interesting quirk or discovered something of a character after you assigned your ability scores?
Oh, that's funny.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm trying to remember the order of operations now because rolling the ability scores came pretty early on. Like I already had most of the concept. Wait, no, those two statements are contradictory. It came pretty early on in like the game process, but I already had like he's going to be a paladin, he's going to be from this, so I had like the skeleton locked in. I think it was a little bit of cope and a little bit of like coming up with an explanation that made sense because one of the hard parts in D&D is that there is an element of randomness in the storytelling, and you can be like, this would be such a cool decision, or this would be so fun, and then the dice don't agree, and you kind of have to just, agree with that. So a lot of the process is like finding a way to make it work rather than feeling like the story is fighting itself. And I think the interesting thing about Bileyg is that he is like early middle-aged by halfling standards, and he was only level 3 when the campaign started, which means he has not been doing a lot of like adventuring stuff up until this point. And he grew up in like the cushiest place in the Planescape. And there are people from Mount Celestia who are incredibly powerful and talented, and then there's just like the halflings on Venya who are just vibing, just straight up. Life is unchallenging, and they do not feel the need to change that very much. And I think Bileyg is this interesting combination of like driven to do more, but has absolutely zero natural talent buoying him up. So it's just all hard work and determination. I did mention his daughter briefly, and I don't know how much like I can build her out because she's kind of in Austin's court. But the vibe I have with her is that she's like an Aasimar sorcerer, so she's got like all the legs up, and he's just like, wow, that's what talent looks like. That's incredible. Guess I gotta work 3 times as hard to keep up. Yeah. I don't know, I think Bileyg is a really interesting character, because his perspective on life, and Mount Celestia and the process of climbing to the summit, I think reflects that. It's like, it doesn't matter how slow you go, it doesn't matter how long you take, as long as you keep moving forward. And the fact that I keep having tremendously bad luck with the rolls really just reaffirms this worldview, so who's really losing? Oh, boy.
Yeah. I always think it's very interesting to let your stats kind of inform character. I tend to assign stats into where I think a character is going to fall. Like Ingrid, I knew I wanted to have a high intelligence, and strength was going to be very important. So when I rolled up a nice hearty 7, I'm like, well, it's very easy to determine where this is going to go. But I find it's I don't have any specific thoughts on the top of my head about it, but like I know that there have been instances where I've played a character and noticed that I've happened to fail a lot of particular checks, like a lot of insight checks or a lot of athletics checks, and just decided like, okay, well maybe there's a reason that this character is so bad at this one thing, and it's not just the will of the dice. And I think it's very fun to try and adapt to that over time. I wish I had a more specific incidence of this, but I've been very fortunate on Rolling with Difficulty so far to kind of match the stats that I rolled.
I feel like I have only one case, and it's not from an episode that came out yet, but it's the episode we just recorded. It was the only time where I was like, I kind of don't care what the dice are saying right now. And Austin, one thing I very much appreciate about your DMing style is that if the player figures something out, you let them have just figured it out, rather than it just being like the character wouldn't know that. Because I don't think I rolled above like a 7 for the entire first 3/4 of that session, and a lot of it was like insight checks, and I was like, I think I know what's happening, but can Bileyg figure it out? And after a certain point, I was like, I'm just gonna say the things I figure out, and we're just gonna deal with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I appreciated that because I liked that I didn't just feel like I was, relegated to the sidelines because the dice were just being very uncooperative.
Especially in a mystery campaign, when there are puzzles involved, and a lot of the you succeed or fail comes down to, can the player, not the PC, succeed or fail. When the onus goes off the character sheet and onto the player, I think it's important to give victories when they're had by the player and not the character. And so, I think in those circumstances, things like insight checks are more like assuredness. I can use an insight check to let you know, yes, you are on the right track. But I often will try to be like, without tipping my hand too much, be like, listen, if you have a hunch, go with it. Even if an insight check didn't prove that out, I don't want you to feel like your character would be like, well, my character didn't even think of it. Be like, your character can be suspicious of that person, for example, but even without the assuredness, still want to investigate them if you, the player, are suspicious of them. So
yeah. Well, this question is kind of related from a Austin, tell us about how it is to run the game standpoint. There's been a few mentions of approaches and contacts in a ticking clock element that feel like blades in the dark. How have you had to adjust the mechanics of a combat-heavy system to mystery?
Yeah, well, the thing that I learned, there have been a lot of things, and I mentioned, I'll try to keep this short, because I mentioned a few of these in the Episode 0 post-mortem, which is one of our Patreon rewards. If you join at the $5 level, you can not only listen to our Episode 0 where we were testing things out, but you can read my notes on what I thought went well and what didn't work. It leans much more towards the latter than the former. But the number one thing to realize is that I did not change the game, and I think it would have been foolish to try to change too much of the game's mechanics. I've seen too many actual plays that are like, yeah, well, we want it to be this kind of story, but D&D is what sells, so let's do D&D, and we'll cut this and add this, and I think that's foolish. As long as we were sticking with D&D, it still needed to be heroic adventures about defeating bad guys. That still had to be the core, and now mystery is kind of just an excuse to do those adventures. And so I always say, like, the adventure, I try to keep the verb, because verbs are very useful whenever you're creating an adventure, whether it's like a big overarching adventure or a small subplot. If you're a GM, I recommend figuring out what the verb is, and sticking with that. And so I try to keep the verb to things that are actionable and not just like find or discover, so that I can, have the mystery element that sets them on the adventure, and then either the mystery element is short and then they're on kind of a normal adventure, or the mystery is couched within another mystery, so there are these kind of layers, and they don't feel like they're spinning their wheels too stuck in one question for too long. Okay, we had to find this person. We found them, but now what has happened to them now that we know that they're in this monster house? Like, that was kind of more of an adventure couched within a mystery, but to adapt has been keeping the verbs. I've been doing the ticking clock. It was a lot more prevalent in the first episodes because I think I needed more of a crutch. I needed more of a framework to lean on. And as the campaign has gone on, I've found that I understand a little bit more how these episodes are going to go, and I build in dramatic moments that can happen less specific cues. Like I know that or rather I have dramatic moments or ideas for dramatic moments, and I have to keep them loose so that they can happen at multiple different points. For example, I can't remember which was episode 0 and which was episode 1 now. But so it was episode 1. So in episode 1, when they're trying to find the missing magic items that were stolen, they go to the apartment, and then they confront the thief after they figured out who it is, after a very what I thought to be a very successful investigation, as opposed to episode 0, which I was limiting the amount of checks they could do, which I thought would add tension, but instead it just added frustration. People felt like they wanted to do more and they couldn't, and I said, okay, well, I still need to limit how much you can do, but I'm going to limit that in scenes, basically. Like, you guys can't just spend, days going to this place, that place. Things will progress. But when you're in one location, you can make multiple checks. So that was one thing I learned. But then with the first episode, I had the characters that they ended up at the apartment, and I was like, oh shoot, there was a dramatic scene that would have happened if they'd done things differently that hasn't happened, and I need to adjust for that. I was going too specific, and the scenes were a useful framework, but since then I've kind of relaxed on it. But it's still important to have that ticking clock so that there is forward momentum in the mystery. Otherwise, they can get really bogged down with a question and feel like they're not making any progress. Like if they come to a roadblock, something else dramatic needs to happen that makes the situation worse, but gives them a chance to progress the story. And Matt Colville, who I'll always reference, calls this orcs attack, which is when they start spinning their wheels, orcs attack. Some random encounter happens that dislodges them from the place they're stuck in. So I've had to utilize that. Now, it's not random encounters for this campaign, that wouldn't really fit, but it is escalation of the mystery. It's the murderer has killed again. It's like the thief has stolen something else. These are escalations. Ooh, that was a lot of talking, and I probably could go on for another half hour about how this campaign has uniquely challenged me. But like I said, if you want more, you can. It does exist on the Patreon, and I'd be happy to answer that question in our Discord or maybe at a future Q&A. But I don't want to monopolize any more time.
Well, we've got another question here from chat from Shadow Spring. How many computer screens and/or physical notes does each person use during each session? I'll say on my end, I think it's probably a battle between me and Austin for who has the most things open at any given time, because I'm recording everything and Austin is running the session. But on my end, I'll have my phone will run Discord to talk to the other players. I have a laptop that's recording local audio, and that's where I usually keep up like Ingrid's character sheet and everything. And then I have a desktop computer that is running any combat we do is going to be screen recorded on there, so I can animate it later in the video uploads. I'll keep a lot of like extra lore documents and things open there, and then I do also take physical notes about what's happening, although a lot of them are just 1 or 2 sentences per session of like, this is the character's name who just walked into the office. This is what they are, and then I forget to write anything else down afterwards. And I prefer physical dice, so I have a dice tray also hanging around.
I have my laptop recording audio, and I have my iPad with my character sheet on it, and sometimes I take notes in my character sheet in the little notes box for where you're supposed to put notes, and that's it.
I have.
Wait, no,
I'll
go on, Noir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you. Good, correct. I do have quite a lot going on. So I have a Mac off to the side that is recording my audio, and that's all that's going on that computer. Because early on, I'm bad at tech, and early on I had some tech problems, and so I just I have such a fear of something going wrong with the audio recording. So I just have that like next to me, just showing that at all times so that I can make sure nothing has gone wrong. And then I have 2 screens, a laptop with a monitor attached to it, so that I can have Discord up and I'm looking at the players playing Discord, and then I have my notes on the other big screen. When we switch to combat, I switch to combat on that screen, and then I'll usually pull up the stat blocks where Discord is, so I can have the numbers and the battle map in the same place. And then I usually have next to me a notebook open with notes that I've taken during the session of like things that I need to remember that are super important that don't have an obvious space in my digital notes. And also I can write things down if I need to remember for the future. And then usually we got the monster manual, we got flea mortals, we got Volo, or I have a Tome of Beasts from Cobalt Press open with the stat blocks in it. So I got a lot going on, plus a dice tray. So
yeah, not as much as either Austin or Sophia, but between my two desktop screens, I have my audio recording, Discord, Roll20, and then I've been taking digital notes, and I've just been putting them on our Rolling with Difficulty not research drive. That's my work. Rolling with Difficulty Google Drive.
That's Noir's secret pin board that he doesn't show any of the rest of us.
Yep. It's available. You guys can see them too. I'm pretty sure they're on the Google
I do
Drive.
notice a notes file going up every time I go to upload my my audio.
Yeah, admittedly, like the notes tend to peter out by the break.
Yeah,
but they have been useful. I've referred back to them on more than one occasion. I have another doc for my song parodies, and D&D Beyond. And I do have a separate like physical notebook where I keep track of where inspirations, silvery barbs, disadvantages, and advantages are being doled out to each player. Because between the two bards and who have both inspiration and silvery barbs, missing whether or not you have advantage on a roll could literally mean like life or death or something like that.
Yeah. And as for me, my setup just in general has 3 screens and then my drawing tablet. When we're recording, I have one screen. The one invert usually has the recording software, and then Discord in the middle, so I can see my wonderful, amazing friends. And then character sheet on another screen. And every once in a while, I'm doodling on the pad, but I usually leave that up for Roll20 and the battle map. And then, of course, on the side is physical dice to play around with. But yeah.
Yeah, the tragic reality of trying to record or stream any sort of actual play is that most of the software that allows you to do actual plays remotely really doesn't play nice with each other. So like Discord and Roll20 just like really don't behave well or behave well with like recording audio. So it becomes a bit of a logistical nightmare, but there's ways to work around it.
Discord added Roll20 as like an in-server activity that you can have with other people on your server. Yeah.
When?
Yeah, yeah, it's a new thing like weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I haven't checked. Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, we'll look into that after this campaign.
I was like, I'm not inclined to change up the format right this
campaign. Tech change.
So that at least serves some indication, maybe, that Discord and Roll20 work better together. But I don't know. We're doing what works.
We'll see.
We're making it work. This question also comes from chat. How did you convince Austin to post the dancey dance? We asked. We asked nicely. We said, Austin, do a little dance.
Very nice.
You don't have to convince me. I dance like that in public all the time. Like a regular grocery store dancer. I find the grocery store to have dancing music. And it gives me something to do while I'm walking down the aisles. I really do not have that much shame about it. The dance, it's way more it's less how my dancing looks, which by the way is not good. I'm not good at dancing. That doesn't bother me as much as my hair looks. That was a like I spent a little time getting the hair to look right before I was ready to go on camera. That I was self-conscious about, but my bad dancing I've never been self-conscious about. So
yeah, if you're looking for shame,
there was no convincing needed.
Yeah, if you're looking for shame, the online improv actual play series is probably not the right place to find people who still feel it.
Yes, no, we've had it beat out of us at this point by sheer force of will. But talking about improv, there's a question in chat, and I think I scrolled right on past it. Whoops. But basically, Noir plans Sophia improvs. What do Oobtaglor and Ingrid do? Do they rehearse their little songs in canon, or do they improvise them?
I like to think Oobtaglor improvises. Like,
I think that Ingrid rehearses. I think we're the opposite in character as we are as players.
Scandal.
Because like
singing in the rain, ass.
I am eternally impressed by how quickly Sophia can come up with these songs like on the fly, And like, so I see me preparing them as like a kind of a crutch or something like that, because I cannot. The sticking point for me is that like the meter has to work, the rhymes have to work like in the moment, but like you can be flexible with that. You don't have to be such a you don't have to be such a stick in the mud about it. It's just that my mental can't get past it. So, but in Sigil, I imagine that Oobtaglor can just come up with that on the spot.
Yes, I like to think that Ingrid is like not necessarily rehearsing the specific songs, but is doing like a lot of like vocal warm-ups and keeping the pipes fresh, as it were. And I'm sure maybe like, I don't know if other people do this, but when I'm in the shower, I'm just like making up little songs, and I imagine that Ingrid is doing the same thing, and that's what ends up being what she sings for her inspiration. But I very much am camp. I'm just going to make this up on the fly because I don't have the brain to like think of things that are going to be applicable in any situation. Like I tend to think of things that are happening right now in this moment, which is why a lot of my songs very rarely could be taken out of the context of the episode and still, like, I think been quite as fitting. But it's very funny to me that we've managed to have players and characters with opposite strategies.
This is amazing.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, this one comes from our email to the players. What would be your player character's favorite Olympic sport to watch, and what would they want to compete in? And to Austin, what would be an Olympic sport unique to the Planescape?
Ooh.
Olympics. Oh my god. See,
Make us a sport, DM.
Magic exists.
Yeah.
That's
That is kind of a
that.
sticking point.
No. So there's like a Tumblr post from forever ago that's like, we need to, that's like twofold about the Olympics. One, we need to have an average Joe like competing in the Olympics just to see what the difference in standard is between like peak performance athletes and just us. And then also like we need to have a section of the Olympics that allows performance enhancing drugs to see, just to test what the like
juice them up.
How far can we actually go?
How far we can actually go.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Right,
I just
exactly.
want to see.
And I feel like Sigil Olympics would work like that. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Magic allowed. Just let's see how we can push like the physical body and with whatever you guys can come up with. But Oobtaglor would be like any swimming sport, synchronized swimming, diving.
Oh, that's good.
That stuff.
Oh man, I'm running into the problem. My shameful secret. I genuinely don't give a fuck about the Olympics. It rolls around every.
I'm not excited this year either. Like
you guys have
never
clearly
cared.
not been
That's
watching
crazy to me.
Breaking,
I've
the
caught a
newest event
couple
of
of
the Olympics.
Look,
breaking.
Have you guys watched
going
the
out of my way to
Breaking
watch
yet?
the Olympics,
though?
though.
No,
Oh,
a friend of mine
killing me,
texted
Smalls.
me, Simone Biles broke another record. She's like 27,
Yeah.
which is like 75 in gymnast years. It's unbelievably impressive.
That's a whole
intellectually.
other thing we should. Oh, the whole how old our gymnast has been artificially crunched down by misogyny and what's the bad practices in gymnastics over the last couple decades. It did not used to be the way, like 40, 50 years ago, it was not really that way, and it's been broken, thank God, in the last couple of Olympics, largely in part to Simone Biles. So.
Well, I learned gymnastics when I was little, and one thing I understood is that like there is a hard upper limit to how good you can get if you are going to be a certain like height and a certain weight at a certain point. And basically, as soon as I cleared 5 feet, it was like, okay, there's a hard limit now on like how good I can get at gymnastics. And so this is a complete side note. The point is, I don't know anything about the Olympics except the little tidbits. I know there's that one athlete who's really into the chocolate muffins. And I know Tony Hawk and Snoop Dogg were there, and that's all I got. That said, I think it would be very funny if Bileyg tried skateboarding.
That's where we're ending
fairness,
that's after all of that. That's where we're ending that statement.
Yeah, small, low center of gravity. I think he'd be able to pull off some pretty good tricks.
Okay. Fair enough.
In fairness, your approach to watching the Olympics or lack thereof does sound pretty Bileyg. Like, you know, I don't really know what these kids are doing, but as long as they're doing the best, I think that's just fine with me.
No, I mean legitimately, yeah.
Anyways,
The most Bileyg
there's a
option
sick
is
kickflip.
not participating in the Olympics. Just skateboarding away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ingrid would do figure skating.
Yeah.
I just think it's the most. Because the thing is, breaking is dancing, yes, but I don't know that I could see Ingrid doing it. So I think by extension,
More like
maybe
breaking
like
a hip, am I right?
Oh,
maybe like synchronized swimming if I have to pick a summer event.
oh boy. Do they do like ribbon dancing in the Olympics? That feels like an Ingrid thing.
I think rhythmic gymnastics. Rhythmic gymnastics is a thing. I think.
Yeah.
Gymnastics, that's not the one that everyone pays that close attention to. It does have ribbons involved, I believe. Synchronized swimming in the ditch. Yeah, what would they do as a... So what is it? I've been thinking about this whole time, and I couldn't come up with anything. I thought about... I started thinking of Treasure Planet and like Spelljammer or Astral Sea racing.
Hell yeah!
Like everyone's just like kind of like a combination of skateboarding, just regular like bike races, and surfboarding, and then like could there be like an Astral Sea point A to B using a Spelljammer skiff like the little ones to get around.
How do you set a land speed record in a dimension with no land and no time?
Exactly. I feel like there is some sort of like way to play with it there. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think a lot on that one because that's
you go to limbo
and very fascinating world building question.
You do competitive wisdom save manifesting. You're just making stuff.
I literally thought of that. I was like, maybe like maneuvering through limbo because it's so crazy.
Ooh,
there might be something with the wind in Pandemonium. Oh, do tell.
Well, just mechanically, you hold a competition in Mechanist one thing, and it's just like averages of everybody's roll, so it's just based on your skill. There's no luck involved. It's just how hard did you train and how high did you bump up your proficiency bonus.
I was imagining just like the gladiator fights that Kiana had to do in order to get into the Great Gymnasium.
Oh, that was fun.
Hell yeah.
Well, I've really gone like from the most ready character to fight in a Coliseum fight to the least ready character to not want to do that.
God. That's what I have to do in order to work out a little. I think I'll pass. Thank you very much.
No thanks.
But our other two players, what are you guys?
Oh, right.
What are Le Pen and Oob doing?
Well, Oobtaglor was doing the swimming, right?
Oh yeah.
Swimming,
diving, synchronized swimming, the whole shebang.
Yeah. I do think Oobtaglor and Ingrid should be in the same event so that they can compete against each other.
Absolute unsportsmanlike behavior on the field, sneaky silvery barbs happening all the time.
They disguise themselves as each other and try to sabotage the scores.
Yes. Just trying to formulate behind-the-scenes scandals by doing stuff as each other.
That is one of those swim caps that they wear for synchronized swimming is very conceptually funny.
The idea of Oobtaglor wearing a swim cap at all is just so comical visual-wise. Like, those things grip. I feel like it would just squeeze their head into an awkward shape.
Put it on their they put it in their head and it just like shrinks down. like SpongeBob putting the pantyhose over his head in that one episode and it turns into a leg.
Yeah.
God dang. No, unfortunately, Le Pen's kind of boring in that he's a track star. He'll do any short distance running.
Good.
Pole vault,
the long jump, triple jump, whatever the javelin thing where you go up over the pole, whatever that's called.
Pole vaulting. Oh, that's the other thing I saw about the Olympics this year. That pole vaulter whose own jump hit the road. Yeah. Honestly, like of all the ways to fail, that one is probably yeah, right. Everyone's
really encouraged anyone who is not.
But you want other things. It's okay.
Yeah. Anyone who has not watched breaking at the Olympics yet, please let this be my formal appeal to you to go and enjoy this newest Olympic sport after this live stream ends because it is spectacular. But we have to get to questions that are not about the Olympics. And this one is from chat. For Austin, has there ever been a moment where you were like, player just did what? So like one of us did something.
Naturally.
Whoa.
Those are the best parts of the campaign. Do you mean this campaign specifically? I'd have to think about this campaign. I'm not sure if there have been any big swings. Yeah, there have been a couple changes. There have been a couple choices that I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I like that. But like Noir deciding to use the contact in an unconventional way to get a magic item. That wasn't necessarily a big swing, but it was surprising. But choices that totally surprised me, absolutely 1,000,000%. I mean, in the first campaign, we had spoilers for first campaign. We had Kiana jumping after Enoch in order to save him.
Yeah,
which
surprised me too.
Which I just assumed was not going to go that way, and which ended up making the Gith an extremely important element of the game, where they might not have been otherwise. And of course, there's the wish, which I had a strong. I put the wish there because I knew they would use it for something big, and I suspected that Oobtaglor. There we go. I'm finally getting the names right for the new campaign. I expected Virla would use it for his own gain to help with his memory or his crew or something, but I didn't expect the Mistra angle, which I guess ties into the I didn't expect Virla to look for Mistra in the first place. So those were of course big swings that super surprised me. Delay Last Fireball was an incredibly clutch, cool moment. Definitely not a campaign-changing moment like those first two, but definitely a like, oh, fuck you. All right, let me. And then I take my toy box of bad guys and I dump it out to see what else I've got in there. Kind of moment, you know? So, absolutely. Those are the best parts of the game. If I wanted to just write a story, I would just write a story, which I do for the NPCs. I write about what's happened to them or happening to them. But I like these characters. I like playing D&D because I get surprised by the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, this next question comes from our email. One of the rarest rewards on Fortune's Wheel is being granted divinity, so minor it's beneath the lady's notice, with domains on the level of dust mites or gazebos. If your character got this prize, what would their domain be?
Oh, that's weird.
Rats? Is rats an option?
A rat domain?
I feel like Ingrid would not enjoy being the minor god of rats.
Yes, this is true.
That would be when the rat guy. There's a rat king in the city. Come after you.
I would love to fight the rat. I would love to 1v1 fight the rat king.
I'm not even sure that would be a fight situation. More of a, at last my destined bride has arrived, kind of. Wait, that's just the plot of a Dimension 20 episode. Oh, okay, forget I said anything. Keep stealing ideas from Bleem.
I can imagine Oobtaglor and Ingrid being like opposing minor gods of theater.
Comedy and
tragedy.
Who's the frowny face?
Yeah,
I think we know who's
Drama.
the frowny face and the smiley face in this dynamic.
Exactly. So
Pretty good.
that's my bid.
Yeah, I think that's pretty strong. Yeah. I'm willing to co-op Noir's bid.
I feel like perseverance is too big of a concept to be. That's the only idea I got, so I'll stick with it.
God of Swords.
God of Swords, yeah.
That's way too big.
God of
literally just like a physical sword, you know, not
God of this one
making
sword.
one or using it, but just like...
You know what? That's not the worst idea in the world.
Yeah.
God of putting your best effort
totally
in.
claim like I don't know, like something with brunch.
God of brunch.
Yeah.
There's definitely like a niche micro meal that Bileyg has had more than anybody else in the Planescape. It's like after dark lunch, but before pre-breakfast.
Yes.
And he's been up at 3 a.m. just enough.
Yep.
Yes, okay. Amazing. Bileyg, the god of the nameless meal.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of
sick.
Evrard, I originally was hoping to do like a cleric ranger multi-class. But it's really tough to do at low levels. But ultimately, I guess Trickery Domain was what I originally wanted to do for him. So yeah, if he is a god of anything, it's a god of trickery. I like the idea.
Ooh.
Pretty good.
I like the idea of like a god of like magic tricks, like just someone who is doing like
close-up magic,
like close-up magic, you know, like just
if we deify Evrard and he becomes Bugs Bunny, I think that's the best possible ending for this campaign.
That's pretty good.
As soon as Austin said we're not Looney Tunes, we all became so much more determined to be Looney Tunes.
Yes.
Well, this question is for Austin from the chat. How has it been making a more episodic campaign compared to the last one? So, you know, the format of the campaign is a little different. How's that been for you?
Oh, well, I mean, I still maintain that the first one is still extremely episodic. Just in that, like, things start and end. Now, there's a lot more temporal connective tissue, right? We usually pick up right when the other one left off, and if not, there's usually an explicit amount of time that has passed, and we will interrogate what's gone down in that downtime. So this has been a lot more. This is a lot more. It still has to be an open and shut adventure, right? It still needs it still needs to close within, but because it's been a lot more work. It's been a lot more work. You know, I have to, especially because it's a mystery and like a combat encounter. If I'm like, okay, they're charged to go. If they were charged to go to this dungeon and get this thing, I could be like, well, it takes like an hour to an hour and a half for each combat encounter, and then we can throw a social encounter and a puzzle in there, and bam, that'll definitely be done in 3 to 5 hours. 3 to 4 hours. Now with the mystery, it's like, okay, they might get someone might have the right answer in like 90 seconds, or someone might have the right answer after, might never get it. So I have to plan in all these other things that can happen to prompt them along if they're struggling, or extra stuff for them to deal with if they get there too fast. So that has been a lot more work. And yeah, it's for that reason that we're definitely not going to see another 5-season campaign in this adventure, in this campaign. Another 5-season campaign for this one. But I am enjoying it, and I like the challenge. Has inspired me to do a lot of cool things, and because I have to use my brain space elsewhere, I've been using the lore a lot more. So I invent a lot less stuff recently, I find, and that has been fun in and of itself.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Well, this question also comes from the chat. How did each character get connected with the agency, and how did the gang get together? So we sort of started in media res with all of us currently working for Open and Shut, but how did everyone join? I'll say for Ingrid's part, it's her agency.
Yes.
I hired a detective who mysteriously went missing, and lo and behold, now I am using what was formerly his office space to run Open and Shut. So everyone kind of came to me.
Yeah, no, I imagine that Ingrid just literally put a hiring sign.
Help wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of just showed up.
Bileyg was like the competitor for a character who was most likely to already be doing this before the detective agency got founded. So I think genuinely it was just like, oh, that sounds like a really good idea. All right, let's get in here. I don't know if there was anything. I feel like we could come up with something fun and like punchy, some adventure that brought us all together, but we didn't do that behind the scenes, so we'd be making it up.
I think I mentioned how Oobtaglor joined the agency in their little YouTube Shorts promo thing. Just they were already like doing like Encyclopedia Brown style mysteries, Jigsaw Jones ass, and then they got it in their head that they're the best detective in Sigil, and so when they saw this other detective agency, they were like, "Oh yes, I will lend my extravagant services into this downtrodden agency." And
downtrodden.
Well, we're certainly getting a lot more cover. I don't know, man.
Was like, I did this.
Went out on the clock. And Evrard.
Evrard was like, okay, look, I'd like to do this job. I don't know if I'd be any good at this job. The only thing that I'm bringing is that I'm from the streets. Like I've done some of the things that we might be solving the crimes for. And then the last thing is, oh, by the way, I died a while ago. So Loki figuring that out in the meantime. So it's basically him showing up with that.
Oh, amazing.
Awesome. Well, this next question comes from the chat. Which adventure of the Per Aspera would the current party members have enjoyed the most or found the most interesting?
See if I can remember
Ingrid
where all we went. Just pull up the map.
Yeah, lots of things.
I think Ingrid would have excelled in the Feywild when we had to entertain kids with Too Lost in Sigil.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but how well would Ingrid take getting dunked on by a child, though.
Ooh, not well.
Not well.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the times we had to imitate, like whenever, because we somehow slumped into doing a Luke and Han in the Death Star constantly. It felt like constantly.
All the time.
So any of the time we had to like impersonate a Gith, I think Ingrid could have been good with that. So like, I guess going into the Gith city and breaking into the prison and all that.
I think Oobtaglor would love Limbo. They haven't been, but they'll literally be right at home.
Yeah.
And I also think Oobtaglor would love the idea of being an envoy for the Githzerai. How well that goes down, hard to say.
Hard to say.
I think, I don't know. I think all of these would be a little bit like, oh, it's not quite right though. Like you put Bileyg in Arcadia, and he's gonna be like, no, thank you.
I think Bileyg would like trying to stay a queen with
Yeah.
Stranger and all.
Trying to say,
We did go to Mount Celestia, I feel like.
That is true.
It was a very weird Mount Celestia adventure, though, because you guys fought a devil there, which is very... That's not the usual.
Admittedly, that is very much something Bileyg would like to do. If there were a devil on Mount Celestia, he would want to deal with that. So, yeah. Also, if he never dealt with the first layer, I think it would have been interesting. I mean, except for that one brief time where the hag sent him to drown. Other than that, everything was great. I think
You survived.
checking out Easgard would be interesting. But if I recall correctly, mostly we were dealing with fungus guys in Easgard.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'd like that any more than Kiana did.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Beastlands might be relaxing, though.
Beastlands is always relaxing. I love the fucking
Beastlands is cool.
I know. Beastlands is so good.
Like, oh,
I'd
who's
to
running
think I've
foul
built
of that
another
extremely shiny
character
sheep
who
over there?
is- That's the thing. I think I've successfully built now 2 characters who would, no hesitation, get into a 1v1 fight with the Golden Ram.
A very different vibe.
Yeah.
Of
Different
Ingrid trying to fight
motivations,
it.
different vibe, but 100% I could see Ingrid doing that.
Oh, but how good would Ingrid look with like a golden sheep curled,
you're
like feather
preaching
boa
to the
type?
choir.
Just like the most luxurious collar you've ever seen. Like that's something that practically screams, "Oh, officer, it's simply awful what happened to my husband."
I haven't seen a single golden sheep. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll give you the number of my tailor, though.
Well, this question is kind of related from Mask of the Red and Convenience in chat. How do you think your characters from each campaign would interact with each other?
Ooh.
Immediate adoption.
Yeah.
Bileyg to Kiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have created the character most desperately in need of a parental figure and the character most desperately in need of a daughter.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
Oh,
Admittedly, a specific daughter. This is no Last of Us, like, unhealthy coping mechanism shit. This is just like, oh, this child is in dire need of some tutoring, okay? And food.
dads are in media right now.
Oh yeah.
Dads have been in since the writers hit 30 and started having children.
Yeah. Oh man.
I don't think Ingrid and Danny would get along at all. I think they would both hate each other pretty equally. I think it might be the worst possible combination of 2 characters to interact.
I've said this before. I don't think Virla and Oobtaglor would get along well. I do think Oobtaglor and Danny would get along well.
Yes,
Oh,
that's the thing.
yeah.
I think Virla and Ingrid might get along pretty well.
I think that Oobtaglor would think they got along great with Virla.
That's exactly
Yes.
that's true.
That's how
That's
Oobtaglor
exactly
feels
like-
all the time.
and that's why Virla would.
Yeah.
Oobtaglor's just like, I think that social interaction went very well.
Funny enough, I
Yeah.
don't think Evrard would like being out on the Astral Sea. He's kind of, born in Sigil. That's all the life he's known, so he'd feel extremely uncomfortable. Although he would like going on any of the heists that we've done. I think that's
Train heist would be
yeah.
fun.
So train heist, breaking into Tunarith. Even when we did the potentates, we were in Brass. That's cool. Like,
Oh, that was
Small-
so stressful.
small quote unquote crimes like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bragging rights alone
Yep.
of being able to be like, oh, any of those would just immediately like silence the room.
Yeah.
There's a question in chat: is Ingrid widowed or divorced? I like to think that she is not widowed or divorced, but I do like to think that she has like a string of flings and past
Foreign
affairs
lovers.
behind her. Yeah, just like, you can't pin her down, right? The grand dame of Sigil's theater scene can't be
amazing.
locked down like that. But I do, she's a lover, not a fighter, so.
Never even got like one night stand married at the Fortune's Wheel by a Snakespeare impersonator. Okay.
We can't make Sigil Elvis thing.
No, it's the Snakespeare impersonator. Snakespeare very much still alive.
Not Elvis, it's Elvis.
Oh
no,
that's good. I like
Elvis.
it. We're just recreating
Very
a lot of
good.
jokes from Terry Pratchett's soul music at this point. His character in that named Bud E. Holly, and a joke is made that he looks elvish a lot.
I didn't give Austin a list of exes like Finbar had, but I guess it is not entirely impossible that one could be imposed upon me, and I'm gonna yes and that. If
Yeah, that's the risk of not locking that shit down.
All right. Well, this question comes from the email. Since Gilda is part of the Searing Tongue, or Greta, or the hag, was she part of Gerda? Was she part of the competition for the Wish Ring in Campaign 1? And if so, what did she cook, and what would she have wished for? This is really for Austin.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I did see someone ask this, and I thought about it. And so, yes, I'm going to say she was there. Second, she definitely baked a pie. Just a regular pie. She went simple with the outside, but the emotion that was cooked into it. And I haven't fully decided on what it would be. It would try to be something novel. If you're cooking for Karun Dindrasi, you got to go something novel. So I don't know. I'm not sure what it would be, but there would be a very unique concoction of emotions there. Maybe something about the fragility of life, because I don't think that's, or maybe something on like maybe it was a humble pie, something on like, being like humbled and made to feel, small and not grand, because that's definitely unique to Karun Dindrasi, which was why it probably backfired. It didn't work. Now, what would she wish for? I don't know, but she is a hag. It would be something sinister. Like, she's not all cool. She's a sinister hag, and there would probably be some string pulling.
Gingerbread house
That she would wish for, like the ability to just, extract strong emotion from people, something to that effect. Not really sure. There might be some sort of spell that she would try to replicate specifically, but
instead of
she would use it for personal gain, because she'd use it for personal gain because she's a hag, and that's what they do.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Very cool. Well, this one comes from the email from Caliburn. Question for Austin and the crew. Last campaign, there was a pretty wide spread of quantity of backstory. What does that spread look like this campaign? If you're willing to share, is anyone playing a blank slate? Who has donned
nearly
the plot hooks?
I would say it looks nearly identical.
I gave a little less.
Say it looks nearly identical. While it was lower level, and we always knew this campaign would be a little bit shorter, I think. So there's definitely less in general. And perhaps you switch Red and Noir a little bit, but Wally still sent me one whole page of backstory, and then one whole page of the character levels and breakdown for future multiclassing reasons. And definitely had like the most going on specifically, I think. Red similarly gave me a mystery. It gave me, a decent. We collaborated a lot more for Kiana, so I'll say that we collaborated a lot more for Kiana. But this was a lot more. You told me this is true, as opposed to Kiana, where you were like, "Can I like be from somewhere I have to escape?" And I was like, "Okay, how about like this?" And then you're like, "This is good. Can it be like that?" And I was like, "That's awesome. Let's add that." This was less collaborative, but there's still kind of a mystery question mark involved with how Bileyg goes from point A to point B from Mount Celestia to Sigil. So just like Kiana with the like, what's up with that monastery that you escaped? There's definitely a sense. There's definitely the like, how did that happen for Bileyg? And that's one of the sort of meta mysteries for like. Not meta, but like the overarching mysteries. I think most of the characters have kind of an overarching kind of mystery surrounding them. Noir, I feel like also for Virla, it was a. I'm not really super sure. We'll keep this open. Here's a very strong character. But, everything that happened before can be a little bit more question mark now. For Oobtaglor, Oobtaglor is pretty young by all accounts, so there was not as much question of like what happened in the past, but there was still a lot of room to work, which I think you'll see maybe in an upcoming episode, that there might be some things Oobtaglor doesn't necessarily know about, or doesn't know about until they find them out. And then Sophia was like, "Yeah, don't worry. What you see is what you get. Here's my character." You were like, "You were like, I hired the detective to look for the necklace," and I was like, "Well, what kind of necklace was it?" And you were like, "Normal necklace. Nothing interesting about that necklace."
It's a family
regular,
it's,
regular necklace, and the guy disappeared. That's all there is to it. And I was like, okay. So I would say it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
Yeah. I did give you way more NPCs this time, though. Last time it was more NPCs full blank slate. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course then we rolled for NPCs. So
yeah,
there's a lot of NPCs floating around in the background, and it took me a long time. I didn't have all those guys ironed out when we hit record on season 1, episode 1. There were still a lot of things I was like, oh, what's gonna be true about this guy? I have no idea. Such is not delegating, but pacing yourself when you're a GM, knowing it's like, okay, I you know what, I just don't need to solve this right now. Let's just leave that and work on something else.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, this question from chat: will the detectives of Open and Shut ever work a case for a member of the Per Aspera? I think we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but we're generally in the camp of probably not be crossing over any major characters from previous campaigns. We like to kind of keep them as their own, something of the sanctity of the original characters, and letting them kind of have their ride off into the sunset, or however they've wrapped up. I think if anything, we might run into like some minor NPCs here or there if they come up. I have personally made a strong case for trying to see Cyprius again, and God willing, I will try. But I think it's unlikely that we will ever see another player character pop up in this campaign.
Yeah, at first I feel weird playing any of them, I think, other than, Virla nearly became an NPC, and then I wouldn't have felt weird about it. But I feel a little weird playing any of them. I think it would also be cool, though. I've played my friends' PCs from other campaigns as NPCs, so I might just find that cool. But yeah, I think that it sort of cheapens things a little bit. It makes the universe feel very small, I think.
Yeah.
It makes the setting feel very small when you do that kind of thing. So listen, never say never. But that was definitely one of the guiding principles of this campaign when we were pitching it, was like, cool, and only the smallest NPCs from the first campaign could show up. We're not going to see any of the big ones. We're not going to see Krundin Trossi or Hira walking around in Sigil.
Yeah. Also in chat, how old are these characters other than Ingrid? Ingrid's big 500 is always looming, guys.
Yep. I have to double check. I think Evrard's pretty old. Actually, I don't know how old Harangon are, but I think I have him. I don't know how old they live, but I think I have him.
That's a good question.
Early 30s. Let me double check.
I think most of the time at this point they just say that the different player species are like, yeah, and they live like as long as like a human does, Yeah. That's kind of Otzi's go-to move at this point.
Yeah.
I think Bileyg is 47. I think that's the number I gave. Something like that.
I give a vague answer for Oobtaglor, but they're very young. Like they split off from their father like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that.
A baby.
Yeah, but the thing you have to put they remember stuff that their father, that their parent, however you want to say it, does. So they're a separate person, but they don't have 3 years of life experience. They have more than that.
Yeah, that's the important thing to note. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, Harangon's like almost all of the things that they do now. They just say, "Yep, they live about a century, about as long as a human does."
Yep.
It's kind of the standard thing they do now.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're kind of coming up on time. We got 1 or 2 more questions we can sneak in here. I do love immediately reaction to Oobsy being a baby, because Oobsy is baby.
Oobsy is a baby.
Ooh,
They are baby.
Are baby.
Give me a sec. I gotta write that down. I gotta draw something.
It's just
add it to the list next to Oobsy Human Sona.
Yeah.
I think that Oopsie's human Sona must have like toothpaste hair, like the full swoop. Like there's no other option.
Yeah.
It's short cropped. It has like the little like swoop, and it's like mint green or something.
Yeah, that's the only possibility. It's like what they did with fucking Beast Boy and Titans. They were like, we can't make him green. We'll just give him green hair and call it a day.
Yeah.
Austin made a very particular sound.
That's we don't have time to get into Titans talk.
We don't have time to get into Titans. I watched a lot of Titans on it.
I also watch a lot of Titans.
I tried to watch things ironically, but I watched Titans semi-ironically.
I remember very little of it.
It's kind of like, I find watching something ironically is kind of like eating something ironically. Like, you could say it was ironic, but at the end of the day, you still did that.
You still consumed it, yeah.
There was almost all of the joke was on you.
I do feel like we've now entered the talking about Titan zone, so I'm going to redirect us to a question from chat. Is Bileyg's wife actually someone widely significant, or is this another, quote, Danny is secretly nobility, unquote, situation?
Well, she's significant to me. What are you talking about?
She is significant. I don't think you're going to find her in a lore book, if I'm correct about that, Red.
Not to my knowledge.
But she's not nobody.
And that's all we're getting for now.
Well, I feel like that's also kind of a core thing, is you don't want people to know she's but yeah, she's got some. She can pull some weight in Mount Celestia.
Initially, the joke was going to be when this character was a lot more Columbo than Bileyg. It was just that I would be referencing my wife, but the references would make it clear that, like, oh, she's some kind of like divinity, or like, wait, how many eyes did you say she had? Like that kind of thing. I decided I didn't have the patience to commit to that specific bit, and it would be easier if I at least knew what her deal was. So. Yeah, I know what her deal is.
We funky. Oh, man. Well, this next question.
So yeah, we're all waiting for you to say something, Sophia.
Yeah, or we could talk about Titans more.
No, that's not.
Just motivating you.
It's kind of crazy that they end the first season with Trigon appearing, and then they just get rid of him in the first episode of the second season.
Sophia,
and he's played by that one guy from Castle. I thought he did a pretty good job playing like evil suits devil, but like that's not really the vibe I get from Trigon, you know?
This one's for Red and Austin, the people talking about Titans. How was the process of lore reading and studying for the campaign? In Red's case, for background, and in Austin's case, I noticed you read In the Cage, the book. How was that like? So did you guys do a lot of research for this? Did you go to any particular sources? Talk about learning about Sigil for this campaign.
Research and study is a strong word for what I did. Again, just like Kiana, I gave myself easy mode by making my character an absolute noob in this specific setting. Like, Bileyg knows a lot about Mount Celestia, very little about Sigil, and is not great at learning the ropes.
You had to learn about Mount Celestia, though, then, right?
I did, yes. What I learned is that Mount Celestia is not very strongly defined consistently across things. I was like looking on the wiki. Don't even bother trying to use any fandom.com sites anymore, by the way. It's literally unusable. Like 1/6 of the screen will show you. Like, it'll slow you down, and also, like, especially if you're on mobile, a video ad will take up the top half of the frame, a different ad will take up the bottom third. You're trying to read the article through 1/6 of the frame. It's actually disgraceful. I'm so mad. But I was looking up like the different layers of Mount Celestia, because when we were developing Bileyg, I was like, okay, I think I was born in Venya, because there's a community of halflings there, and I think he got up to level 5 and trained in Sokot Hezi, the City of Swords. And you were like, okay, yeah, advancing from one level to another requires some sort of personal enlightenment. So you should look those up and like figure out what they were. And I was like, okay, sure. And I looked it up and I was like, what do you need to do to advance from one layer to the other? And they wouldn't tell me.
It wouldn't tell you. Yep.
Yeah, it's just not locked in. It's like, it's something, but basically it's like you got to make this check. You got to, hit this DC. And it's like, it's possible for me in my wisdom score. It would just take me a while. So that was kind of it. It's, again, perseverance. Bileyg has tried a lot and he's failed a lot. But we talked it out, because it's basically like, okay, Bileyg has already gone through like 2 personal epiphanies at this point, so like, what's his deal? We know what does he still have to learn. But it ended up mostly being dealer's choice on that one, because they just don't give you very many details, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and then after I got that locked in, it's like, okay, so I just need to be passingly familiar with these 3 levels of Mount Celestia and then not know shit about Sigil. My homework's done. Okay, great.
Which is where I pick up the baton.
Yeah.
And yes, so in the cage, A Guide to Sigil, I actually bought a copy off eBay, which was $30, and I said either this is, because usually they're old, they're usually like hundreds of dollars, and so I said either this is the best deal I'm gonna get, or this is a reprint. And it was a reprint, which I would have preferred it to be the great get, but whatever. But let me tell you, I have had the PDF since we started the campaign, and the PDF is just like, it was so hard for me to read and to navigate. Having the book has been a lot of help, and it's been a lot of fun, because when I feel like I am stuck, I flip through and I find an NPC or a location, and it inspires me. I'm trying to think if, and that's especially been true of the back half of this campaign so far, that I've been... early on I had a lot more ideas for mysteries, and I felt a lot more. They were a lot more they were already locked in, and as we've gone on, I've still had ideas, but I've been kind of trying to inspire myself. As you go on, you need more inspiration to keep you going as your well of ideas starts to run a little dry. So it's been really fun to just flip through it and find stuff. I've also found a bunch of things where I'm like, oh, that's funny. I created the patrons and myself created an NPC that was basically like this NPC who already exists. Isn't that funny? I'm trying to think. The wall in the slags was a thing that I discovered in the book, and I was like, that's cool. Let's use that. So it's been, I mean, I don't know that there's more secret to it than just flip through and get inspired. But I think that's kind of the best way to do world building aspects of your game is you will probably already have strong ideas. Come in with those strong ideas that you care about, because you caring about them will make other people care about them. The excitement will be infectious. So come in with those ideas. Don't let the canon tell you that it can't be something that you really want to do if you really want to do it, but also be open to being inspired by things, because it will breathe new life into your campaign and into your setting if you let stuff that other people have already done that you find cool bleed in. So that's been my approach to it, and I have to say it's eased up. I felt really underwater at the start of this campaign, I think, and I have, at this point, I feel more like I'm treading water. My head's above,
Yay.
Nice.
We're not out of the ocean, but...
Well, this next question is to Wally. Will we ever get to find out about Evrard's criminal morals? Are there lines he doesn't cross? Does he have a code?
Ooh.
He feeds people to houses, so...
He feeds killers.
Yes, it comes for us all.
to houses. There's a difference. There's a difference.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know why Ingrid and Bileyg are so caught up on this. Like, it's not like Oobtaglor is just like luring random citizens into the house who don't deserve it. Like, these like Oobtaglor is feeding them pigs for the most part. But if there was someone who was treating them wrong, and treating other people wrong, I see no reason why they don't be house fodder.
Exactly.
There is unfortunately a distinction between the not as evil as you could have been a ward and lawful good.
Due to the fact that we've been trying to keep the episodes more episodic and less heavy on the backstory, I've been hesitant to push a lot of that backstory like into episodes and onto the table. But for the most part, he's a street kid. He came from a large family. He'd never his parents did not have enough attention for all of their children. So at some point, Evrard found it easier to survive on his own. So for him, his own personal moral code was to survive out on the streets by doing whatever crimes necessary. It got to a point where he did not know anything else. Even when he was comfortable, he had a slew of contacts, people he knew, places to go in and around Sigil. So when he finally got a job that literally got him killed, he's now navigating exactly what those moral boundaries are, I guess. And that's kind of the whole deal with him right now.
Question from chat. What would each of these characters do if given a child or baby?
Who keeps asking this question?
I'd like to think that there was a
We've been
world
given
where
a baby.
Danny is. Yeah, we have.
And we're feeding them and teaching them right from wrong, and it's all going great.
I like to think then last, like Danny, not good with kids, but like in the way that a babysitter can be kind of become your favorite by just being like a little bit not into being around you as a kid. Like I feel like Danny might be a good babysitter, but would not be good at keeping a kid alive outside of like an hour. I think Ingrid is downright bad with kids. Like I think she doesn't like them and she doesn't know what to do with them. She's like, what is this? What is this? A small creature? What am I supposed to do with them? They can't even appreciate the theater.
Oh man.
You know, considering that kids that get taken to theater performances usually get fussy within half an hour because the attention span's just not there, I feel like Ingrid would have only negative associations with children below a certain
Children's
age.
theater is a very specific niche, and it is not Ingrid's niche.
I don't know how Oobtaglor would be with like a literal infant, but I think they would go over well with like little kids in general because they're like they're fine.
So like
They're a busker. They're also fine with like being the butt of a joke, and so like.
I just got such a specific image.
Yeah.
Like Oobtaglor like goes to help out at the preschool and comes back like a full 1/3 smaller with just like fingerprints all through them.
Yeah.
Just like
like
paint in their head.
I think they would like ham it up, being like, "Unhand me, you fiendish
Ruffians.
people, and like you ruffians," and the little kids would like enjoy that and just get into them more. But that's what Oobtaglor is really going for, you know.
All these kids focusing the most they've ever done because they have little slimes that they can like play around with to stay to keep the attention span going.
I did have the horrible thought that with a baby, Oobtaglor would be okay with it, but there will be like some really dicey moments in there. Like Oobtaglor's a plasmoid.
Yeah.
Oobtaglor thinks that just putting the baby inside of them is like a good storage space, but then very quickly realizes that's not the case at all.
No.
Ooh, I see.
Can't keep the baby there.
Oobtaglor must learn baby safety.
Yeah.
Bileyg is great with kids.
He's an actual dad.
Bileyg is a dad.
Bileyg is a dad. Has gotten it right at least once. Also, I feel like Bileyg's like family back in Venya is like pretty big. Bileyg has a bunch of siblings, but it's like almost the inverse of Evrard's tragic backstory, where it's like it's a big family, but you know you got enough adults around. You know it takes a village to raise a child. That whole thing, and it's like definitely had like a baby sibling at the age where he was expected to like be able to take care of the baby sibling. He got pretty good at it from there. Like it knew how to change diapers by like age 15, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think Bileyg is confiscating the baby from the rest of the crew.
Yeah, and what Red was saying in terms of Evrard, he's like, he has siblings, but he has not done a good job at it. So he understands that if someone gives him a kid, he's passing it on to the most responsible person he knows, because he knows he can't do a great job at that.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff.
Good work, guys. I think we kept the baby alive this time.
I think the takeaway is just give the baby to Bileyg.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Just give it to Bileyg. Well, we've got time for one last question here, and this is open to all from chat. Who is everyone's favorite NPC so far?
Ooh.
Oh, I can't say because the episode's not out yet.
Oh,
No!
right,
I like
yes.
the rat.
Oh, right, I have to think from before.
I like the rat waiter from I like the rat waiter a lot.
I like the big
I know they're
guard rat. That just
What if they're just all
slapped the
rats?
entire time.
All of the rats actually have been our favorite NPC.
Meech.
I will say
Meech is
the
famous.
murder
Meech.
Modron that we didn't catch.
Yeah.
That's we got outsmarted by a Modron.
Surely these
I don't know how
cons
to
is
feel
consequence.
about that.
We thought we took away an important moral lesson, but then it turned out all we had done is not actually catch the killer.
We don't know that. We did not see.
We don't know that. We
did
are-
not perceive.
We are steeply in the joy of blissful ignorance.
True. You know what? I'm not gonna say, because again, my character is not from an episode that's out yet, but when that episode comes out, you are all going to know, oh, okay, yeah, definitely this one. That's homework for later.
Oobtaglor likes Tilly because they got a hat of disguise out of the.
Yeah.
That's definitely not gonna fucking bite them in the ass.
Yeah, no,
I'm
no,
sure
no.
it'll be fine.
Austin, you have a favorite NPC?
I think I do. The Grigsit has been really fun, and I'd like to see her again because she's so uniquely Planescape. It's not a character that can really exist anywhere else because of the specific circumstances, so that's pretty cool. But Copper, I like this working man, and like normal dude, thief. Obviously Meech's
Meech,
Meech's
my
life,
beloved.
but with not to take the easy choice, Copernicus, aka Copper, is definitely one of my favorites, and a character that I invented to be a backup character, different campaign, different setting that Noir was running, and then
sense.
Noir actually played that character for a session when I ran a one shot, which was super fun, and so I was really excited to bring Copper into this as completely different. He's not really anything like how he was in that other campaign, but it was still fun to see this like multiversal variant, and I do love the notion of someone being named Copernicus and calling them Copper.
It's such a good nickname.
And just being like a working man thief in Sigil, I feel like really fits the vibe very well. He's also kind of uniquely Sigil with like he knows about the portals. He's one of the door snoopers. He can get you in, and he's got a regular job. And also like there's no real law and order here, so they just he just does some crime on the side.
Yeah.
And why not? It's I was really excited when he got rolled up.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Shout out to Sked, the guy who runs the construction site. I just think he's terrible. I just think he's annoying. He's so awful. I can't wait to interact with him more.
Yeah, he's slimy. Yeah.
Greenleaf or whatever he was called.
Yeah. It's in my notes somewhere, but I'm not digging those out right now because we are coming up on time. We gotta go rest up so that we can continue getting these episodes created. But thank you so much to everyone who's joined us on this Q&A. I hope that we have answered your questions, and if not, feel free to email them to rollwithdifficulty@gmail.com, and we will do our best to respond to those emails. I promise we're on it. We're doing our best here, but we've got a regular episode returning next Friday. And we got 5 more episodes coming for you this season, and I think you're going to enjoy them quite a bit. We've got Red's favorite NPC. We've got all of us doing our little antics. We've got some great songs for inspo. So please, we hope you enjoy. We hope you join us next time we do one of these.
Please enjoy. Please enjoy.
Yeah.
I want to go to bed. I'd like to take a nap.
I got another episode to prep. We got a recording Monday.
Yeah.
Prep it.
Adios
All
and
right,
good night.
thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Easy.